After the nuclear explosion, the whole city was blasted into a mushroom cloud. The apocalypse followed. Radiation turned people into zombies. They're immune to radiation, but they feed on human flesh. They even pile on top of each other, climbing up the building, smashing through the glass into my home. In an instant, I was torn apart by the zombies. Reborn, I bolted upright in bed, my hands clamped over my neck. But there was no blood, yet the searing pain of being eaten alive had me gasping for air. Cold sweat soaked through my clothes. The bedroom was still my bedroom. On the desk, the countdown calendar for the grad exam was still there. 7 days until the nuclear explosion that changed everything. But outside the window, it was calm. Mom, Dad, Xiaoyu. I ran out of the room barefoot, pushing open every door, all empty. Cold congee and pickles sat on the table. My heart started to sink. I took out my phone, my fingers shaking so bad, it took 3 tries to unlock it. The contact, Dad, stung my eyes and brought tears. The phone rang 5 times before he picked up. Hey, Xiaoyuan, what's up? My dad's voice came through the receiver, a little out of breath. In the background, the wind was howling. Tears streamed down my face. A lump stuck in my throat. I opened my mouth, but couldn't form words, only sobs. My dad's voice suddenly tensed up. Xiaoyuan, talk to me. What happened? Dad, where are you? I finally choked out the words, my voice trembling uncontrollably. There was silence on the other end for 2 seconds. Home in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Just wait for us at home. Dad's voice suddenly turned cold. After hanging up, I slowly slid to the floor, holding the hot phone. The last images of my previous life were still flashing before my eyes. The bunker was pried open. Cripple Zhao and his gang were grinning as they moved our supplies out. Mom knelt down, begging them to leave some food, and was kicked away. Watching the zombies surround our house, our whole family ran upstairs. But it turned out the zombies could climb on top of each other. They climbed straight up the building. The excruciating pain of being eaten by zombies was still vivid. Suddenly, the sound of brakes screeched outside the gate. I got up and rushed to the window and saw a gray RV I had never seen before. The passenger door opened. My little sister, Xiaoyu, jumped out. She had a ponytail. Her face lacked the innocence of an 18-year-old. She scanned the area warily, quickly opened the yard gate to let the RV in, then closed the gate behind her and locked it. Her movements were practiced, as if she had been trained. The driver's door opened. Dad stepped out. He was still wearing that faded shirt. There were stains on the cuffs. He walked around the front of the car, opened the back door. Mom got out. She was clutching a bulging woven bag. The 3 of them stood together, their eyes all turned to me. I pushed open the gate and rushed out. The sunlight was blinding, but all I could see were the 3 of them, alive and whole. I threw myself among them. My arms flailed to hug whoever was in front of me. Dad, Mom, and Xiaoyu. Tears were streaming down my face. It's okay. It's okay. Mom's eyes reddened. She patted my back. I'm back now. Xiaoyuan, we're all back. Xiaoyu buried her face in my shoulder and said, muffled, Sis, you're squeezing too hard. Dad's big hand rubbed my head heavily twice. Come on, let's go inside and talk. Zombie apocalypse. I was forced to jump off the building by a zombie horde. Looking down at the 30-story building, I leaned back and jumped straight down. I saw Dad on the 29th floor protecting my little sister, not letting the zombies bite him. But his own back was already torn to shreds by zombies. I saw Mom hiding in fear in the bathroom on the 28th floor, shivering. But when she saw me falling rapidly, her eyes were full of heartache. She ran to the window without hesitation and jumped, holding me in her arms. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. Our family squeezed into the living room, the curtains quickly drawn by Xiaoyu. The room went dark. I was still sobbing, wiped my face, and looked at their 3 unusually serious faces in the dim light. Something's wrong. They're too calm. Seeing me break down crying, they didn't even ask what happened. I took a deep breath, straightened up. Mom, Dad, Xiaoyu, what I'm about to say might make you think I'm crazy, but you have to trust me. In 7 days, there will be a nuclear explosion. It's not just a normal explosion. The radiation and virus will turn the dead into zombies. The world will go into chaos. A lot of people will die. Our family's cave, the one Grandpa left us, will become our only hope for survival. But in the last life, I was cut off by Cripple Zhao and his gang. Dad raised his hand. Mom's eyes were redder. She came over and held my cold hand. Xiaoyu stood next to me, gently tugged my sleeve, and said very quietly, Sis, we've been reborn too. What? I was stunned. My mind went blank. Dad walked over to Grandpa's portrait, his back to us, voice hoarse. I woke up a week earlier than you. The first thing I did when I woke up was sell our old pickup truck. added some money, and swapped it for this used RV. It's fuel efficient and sturdy, and the tires are puncture proof. Also, my strength is much greater now. After being reborn, I found myself incredibly strong. With that, Dad walked over to the solid wood cabinet in the corner of the living room. The cabinet was very heavy. In the past, he and Mom had to work together to barely move it. I watched Dad walk over. He grabbed the edge of the cabinet with one hand. The muscles in his arm tensed slightly. He lifted it effortlessly. My eyes widened. I held my breath. Dad placed the cabinet back easily. He patted his arm. In my past life, I was beaten to death by Lame Zhao and his gang. They were stealing things. I tried to stop them. This life, I'm much stronger. Maybe it's compensation from fate. I was speechless with surprise. Then Mom let go of my hand. She opened the woven bag she'd been clutching. Inside were not the vegetables and daily necessities I expected, but antibiotic iodine tablets, gauze, compressed biscuits, and 2 gleaming long knives wrapped in oil paper. I visited several pharmacies this week, a few supermarkets, and ordered some stuff from out of town. Your dad didn't want me to tell you. He was afraid you couldn't handle it. Mom reached out, and a thin stream of water emerged from her fingertip. I've been dreaming about water ever since I woke up. In the last life, your dad died. I escaped with Xiao Yu. In the end, we had nowhere to run. The broken bridge was ahead, and the zombies were behind. I jumped. When I woke up, I found I could make water come out of my fingers. With that, he picked up the empty glass on the table. He stared at a thin stream flowing from his fingertip into the glass. I was dumbfounded. Mom, you're such a mom, even more over the top than Dad. What surprised me even more was my little sister. Xiao Yu pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket and unfolded it. On it, there was a rough pencil drawing of the underground bunker's layout, but with many more annotations. Where to reinforce, where to set traps, and where to stash supplies safest. I have nightmares every day, dreaming of zombies opening the bunker door, dreaming of us starving and unable to move, dreaming of us not escaping. So I wrote it all down. 3 days after waking up, I noticed a strange change in my body. What change? I looked at Xiao Yu. I saw Xiao Yu point upward with her fingertip, and from her fingertip along her arm, green vines actually grew. At the ends of the vines were a few green leaves. I think I can make seeds survive. I can farm now. In my past life, I was so hungry I couldn't move, and was taken by the zombies. This time, I don't want to starve again. I looked at my dad, Mom, and Xiao Yu, completely stunned. They weren't joking. Their serious expressions reminded me of the past life. My dad turning to lure away the zombies, my mom bracing the door with her body, and finally Xiao Yu being dragged away by zombies. You all remember, right? Remember your dad dying in front of me. Remember Xiao Yu being dragged away. Remember you. He couldn't continue, turned away. So we still have 7 days. After rebirth, the whole family mutated. Mom summoned water sisters, ready to sow and cultivate anytime. Dad got the strength of 10,000 people. They all came back. They also brought extraordinary abilities. Not 6.5 days. I started preparing the day I woke up. The RV was the first step. Started reinforcing the cave bit by bit. I bought cement and rebar. I can plaster the walls again tonight. And the vents. Xiao Yu camouflaged the water source with vines. That's a big issue too. The old well in the cave is unstable. I ordered 20 large water tanks. They'll arrive tomorrow. And water purification tablets. I bought enough for 5 years. My ability can save lives. But if we want to live well, we must stock up on water. I also made a food list. Xiao Yu turned the paper over. The back was covered in dense writing. Calories first, long shelf life. Also need seeds. We must have a source of renewable food. The more seeds the better. The more variety the better. I want to try growing something in the cave. Xiao Yu has plant-type abilities. He is the hope of survival. They spoke one sentence after another. Clearly they were reborn a week earlier than me. They didn't waste a single second. And me, what can I do? You being alive is the most important thing. Dad patted my shoulder. In the previous life, I was the first to die. To protect me, the fool, Mom missed her chance to escape. Xiao Yu tripped, trying to pull me. I am the weakest one, the one holding everyone back. What can I do? I need to be useful. I shook my head. My nails dug into my palm. But I have nothing. Compared to Dad, Mom, and Xiao Yu, I'm like a waste. Just like in the previous life. Xiao Yuan, no. Mom put her arm around my shoulders. She tried to comfort me. I looked at the canvas bag on the living room couch. If only I could store all the supplies in my body. But the next moment, my eyes widened in shock. Just as the thought arose in my mind, the canvas bag suddenly disappeared. Hey! My whole family was stunned. My heart was pounding. It felt like the canvas bag was stored in my consciousness. Come out now, I thought to myself. The canvas bag reappeared in its original spot, as if someone had just cast an illusion on it. I struggled free from my mom's arms. I think. Let me try again. I tried to describe that subtle feeling. I concentrated and tried again. I looked at the apple on the coffee table. The apple vanished instantly. My consciousness entered an empty space. The apple was on that dark soil. I picked up the apple. With a flicker of thought, the apple was back on the coffee table. Sis, did you do that? Is it a space? Xiaoyu exclaimed excitedly. I've read apocalypse novels. Some people have a space. Is yours one, sis? Xiaoyu shook my shoulders. I shook my head, dazed. It seems. It's empty inside. There's also a patch of dark soil and layers of mist. Can't see clearly. It's definitely a space, sis. This is so useful. We can stock up on supplies big time. Mom and Dad were overjoyed too. Xiaoyuan, don't rush. You just got the ability, so you're definitely not used to it. Over the next few days, get in tune with your body. You'll definitely be able to use it smoothly. Dad patted my shoulder. I nodded. I felt more confident. We only have 6.5 days. Time is tight. We need to hurry. Mom and Dad announced. Xiaoyuan, come with us to check out the air raid shelter. I nodded. In the previous life, we only hid in the shelter 3 days after the nuclear blast. Back then, it was barely a livable shelter. Although we stored a lot of food inside, it was damp and dark. That food couldn't sustain us forever. But now, following Mom, Dad, and Xiaoyu, we arrived at the backyard entrance hidden by weeds. My heart was racing. Dad bent down and pushed aside the wooden board disguised as turf, revealing a heavy metal door. 3 layers of steel with fireproof and blast-proof materials in between can withstand normal explosions and impacts. This metal door was clearly newly installed by Dad. The plastic film on it hasn't been peeled off yet. I had this door custom-made. Dad turned the combination lock and said proudly, only the 4 of us know the code. He said it very quietly. I heard it click. The door opened. Inside, it smelled of dirt and cement. Behind the metal door was an iron staircase. Going down the stairs, I found the walls in the basement had been completely renovated, painted, and new LED strips were installed along the walls. They emitted a soft white light. The whole staircase had been sanded down, and non-slip strips and handrails had been added. All done last week, Dad explained as he walked. His voice echoed in the dugout. I work during the day and come here to reinforce it at night. Your mom and Xiaoyu helped out. Can't be easy getting all these materials here. You carried them all by yourself? Dad's hair was already streaked with gray. He had been working extra hard. I couldn't help but feel for him. Dad turned back and smiled at me. He rolled up his work sleeves, his arm muscles bulging. Didn't I tell you? I got stronger. Before, 2 people had to carry 1 bag of cement. Now I can carry 2 bags with 1 hand. As he said that, he was about to show me. I quickly refused. The end of the tunnel opened up wide. I remember this cave was pretty big, but this time after coming back, taking a closer look, I realized it was much bigger than I thought. It's an irregular oval shape. The highest point is over 3 meters. The area is about the size of a basketball court. The walls and ceiling were all replastered with cement. The surface is very smooth. Thick steel bars support the structure of the cave. The joints are welded solid. Clearly Dad's workmanship. I scrounged these steel bars from an old factory. Dad pointed at the supports. Every single one has been rewelded and reinforced. The walls are thicker too. The thinnest part is 30 centimeters. Even if the house above collapses, this place can hold up. Dad, where's the ventilation system you mentioned? I looked around and saw several vent openings in the corner. Then Xiaoyu took me over to the corner. I designed 3 vents, all camouflaged. I saw green vines covering the vents, like plants that had always been there. Now, even if someone walks by, they won't notice anything here. Xiaoyu told me about these 3 vents. One leads to the backyard vegetable patch, one goes under the old locust tree, and another is by the woodpile. Each opening has a filter screen and activated carbon layer. They filter dust and harmful gases, and these vines growing around not only provide camouflage, but also supply oxygen. As he said this, he deliberately lowered his voice. I looked at him in surprise. Xiaoyu is only 18, used to be a careless girl. I never expected her to be so thorough. Mom walked over and pointed to the other side of the cave. Look, your dad set up 2 private spaces over there. Sure enough, there was a thick curtain in the middle of the cave, dividing the space in 2. On this side of the curtain, there were 2 simple beds, a desk, and some storage bins. You and Xiaoyu sleep here. Your dad and I sleep on the other side of the curtain. We're still a family, but we need some privacy too. I smiled slightly. Mom's still so thoughtful. That's not all. Mom pointed to the other side. That's a makeshift bathroom. I went over to look. It was a small cubicle enclosed with waterproof fabric. Inside were several large buckets, bags of cat litter stacked by the buckets. If we can't go outside, then we'll have to relieve ourselves in here. Cover the waste with cat litter to minimize smell and bacteria as much as possible, Mom explained. I bought enough cat litter to last 2 years. Seal it up regularly. When it's safe, we'll find a way to dispose of it. No problem. This past week, Dad, Mom, and Xiaoyu, they prepared everything. I was curious how this cave even came to be. It was Grandpa's, right? Dad walked to the middle of the cave, looking up at the concrete and steel above. This cave has a long history. Your grandpa said it was originally an air raid shelter from the war. It was built very discreetly. The enemy never found it back then. After the war ended, it was abandoned for decades, until your grandpa's generation rediscovered it. Times were tough back then. It's cool in summer and warm in winter. Your grandpa even lived here for a while, and eventually, it was passed down to me. Dad took a deep breath. When I was young, I used it as a storage room. Later, I turned it into a cellar. I grew mushrooms in it. I stored winter vegetables there. Do you remember playing hide and seek here with Xiaoyu when you were little? I nodded. Vague memories surfaced in my mind. When we were kids, under the dim kerosene lamp, Xiaoyu and I would chase each other around in this cellar. I never thought it would become our refuge for survival. Mom's voice was a bit hoarse. I turned my head to look at the other side of the cellar. There was actually a small patch of farmland. The soil had been carefully tilled and divided into neat sections. Tender green sprouts were emerging from the soil. Under the glow of LED strip lights, they looked full of life. What are these? I walked over. Baby bok choy, spinach, and radishes. Xiaoyu followed behind me. He was extremely proud. I planted some fast-growing vegetables. With my ability, they grow 3 times faster than normal. I patted Xiaoyu on the head. Xiaoyu, this plant-based ability is really useful. I saw Xiaoyu crouch down. His fingers gently brushed over the tender green sprouts. Those sprouts grew a little taller. My ability isn't just about making plants grow faster. It can also enhance their resilience. When the apocalypse comes, the radiation outside will be strong, and temperatures will be abnormal. These plants need to have the ability to survive in the apocalypse. Xiaoyu, with you here, we'll definitely have enough food and water this time, I asked. Mom led me to the farthest corner of the cavern. 10 huge blue water tanks were neatly lined up there, each one as tall as a grown-up. Each tank can hold 2 tons of water. Mom patted the tank. That's 20 tons for all 10. I filled them all with purified water, enough for the 4 of us for a long time. And that's not all. He held out his finger. A thin stream flowed from his fingertip, pouring into an empty bucket next to him. As long as I'm here, we won't run out of water. The flow is small right now, but it adds up. He pointed to a few big boxes by the tanks. Those contain purification tablets, filter cartridges, and test kits. I think this stuff will last at least 5 years. Seeing all this, my throat tightened. Thinking of our makeshift stash in the past life, worrying every day about a single bite or sip. Now, it's like we're celebrating the new year. The zombies aren't the scariest part. What's coming next is the terrifying climate shift. Temperature drops and drought, especially the cold snap. It could drop to -40 degrees or even lower. In the past life, I felt that cold snap deeply. I've always been sensitive to cold. We didn't have enough winter clothes at home. Not to mention, our gear couldn't withstand -40-degree cold. The insulation supplies are also ready. Mom put her arm around my shoulder. I bought 10 extra thick down comforters and electric blankets, plus specialized outdoor thermal sleeping bags. The cavern stays cool in summer and warm in winter, but in extreme conditions, it definitely won't be enough. I looked around this cavern, reinforced like a fortress. I felt much more at ease. This preparation is way earlier than last time, and much more thorough. All right, that's everything. Dad clapped his hands. Xiaoyuan, your task ahead is heavy. I straightened up. Dad, you said you're a spatial ability user. Stockpiling mainly depends on you. Dad's eyes were shining. We need a lot of food. Although we've stockpiled a batch, it's still not enough. This food isn't just rice, flour, and oil. Also long-term storage items like canned goods, dried foods, and seasonings, and medicines, antibiotics, painkillers, cold medicine, vitamins, everything you can think of. We need to bring back. Seeds, sister. Don't forget the seeds, Xiao Yu said urgently. The more, the better. The more diverse, the better. I don't know where the limit of my ability is yet, but I want to try. Whether I can build a small ecosystem in the cave. I gave a firm nod. Don't worry. Leave the countdown to me. Early on the 6th day, I drove the other used pickup truck from home into town. My first stop was a large warehouse supermarket on the east side of the city. I pushed several shopping carts and started my first round of hoarding. 25 pound bags of rice. I was mentally reciting the list. 23 pound bags of flour, 10 jugs of cooking oil, and 50 boxes each of noodles, instant noodles, and vermicelli. The shopping carts couldn't hold anymore. Soon they were piled into a small mountain, and there were still a lot of supplies I needed that I hadn't bought yet. The cashier was a young girl. Looking at my purchases, her eyes were wide open. I handed her the paper. And these, I want all of them. What's all this for? Are you starting a supermarket? I smiled. Yes. Just planning to open a small supermarket in the village, and the new year is coming. So stocking up. The cashier nodded. When she started scanning and checking out, the amount was close to 20,000 yuan. Luckily, I had some savings from previous years. Otherwise it would have been a bit tight. I swiped the card without changing my expression. Could you deliver these to this address later? The address I provided was a warehouse I specially rented before coming. I rented this warehouse for 4 days, planning to stockpile supplies there. After the delivery guys left, I would transport these supplies home one by one. I was a big customer, so the warehouse supermarket provided free delivery service. Leaving the supermarket, I headed to the farmer's market. I had to race against time. There wasn't much time left for us. I found a large wholesaler. I ordered 500 pounds of various beans here. Soybeans, mung beans, red beans, and black beans. They can be eaten or used to grow bean sprouts. And Xiao Yu can also try planting them. Also need 100 pounds of salt, 50 pounds of sugar, and 20 bottles of various seasonings. I told the boss each item one by one. The boss was a middle-aged man. He kept tallying my order and sizing me up. Young lady, buying so much. What are you planning to do? Open a supermarket. Our village never had a decent convenience store. I answered without changing my expression. I plan to open a small store to earn my first pot of gold. The boss smiled after hearing that. Great ambition. You've got guts. He didn't ask any more questions. These days, you see all sorts of people. Everyone is busy with their own lives. No one has time to mind others' business. Over the next 2 days, I went back and forth to town over a dozen times. The second-hand truck's tires were heavily loaded. Every time I returned to the village, it drew some stares. A few gossiping women gathered under the locust tree at the village entrance. They whispered to each other as I drove by. Isn't that old Lee's eldest daughter? I heard she couldn't make it in the big city and came back. She didn't get into graduate school, right? Hey, the White House has been losing for all these years. Look at her, carrying all those bags. What is she doing? She's squandering the family's fortune. Who knows? She might be back just to live off her parents. Even my Erguzi is better than her. I rolled up the car window, shutting out all the gossip. Let them talk. The apocalypse is coming. I hope their long snake will be as useful against zombies. In the burrow, Dad and Mom had installed rows of shelves. The shelves were made of metal, very sturdy. Mom wiped them down several times. She even reinforced the joints, covered them with dust cloths. Just waiting for your supplies to go on the shelves. Mom stroked the smooth surface of the shelves. A hint of relief flickered in her eyes. Xiao Yu was busy as a little squirrel, organizing the purchases I brought back into categories. Rice goes here, flour goes here, cooking oil stays separate, in case it leaks. He directed me, never stopping with the canned goods. Sort by type: meat, fish, vegetables, fruits. Sis, don't just put them anywhere, otherwise, we won't find them. I looked at the shelves gradually filling up. A sense of satisfaction rose in my heart. This is the joy of hoarding, I guess. But this was just the first wave of our stockpiling. We'd continue stocking up in the coming days. At night, I lay on the simple bed in the burrow. Couldn't fall asleep no matter what. I sat up, looking at the supplies on the shelves not far away. A thought popped into my head. Why not give it a try? I focused my mind on a 50-pound bag of rice. yes, I mentally commanded, absorb, but the bag of rice didn't budge. Try again. I took a deep breath, imagining the empty space in my consciousness and the black soil. I want to put the rice in there. Still no response. I felt a bit discouraged, but then I remembered what Mom had said. Just got the ability, certainly not proficient. I need to practice more. I switched targets, fixed my gaze on an apple on the small table nearby. I had specifically left it there to see if I could keep it fresh in the space. Concentrating my will, I mentally commanded. The apple disappeared. My heart raced. My consciousness immediately sank into the mysterious space. That apple was lying on the black soil, surrounded by faint white mist. I tried to take it out. The apple in the space instantly returned to the table. Success. This proved that I really could control the space. For the next few hours, I practiced like crazy, from an apple to a bag of salt, then a jug of oil. At first it was tough, but then it got smoother. I also noticed the space was pretty smart. Same items stack automatically, and different items can be stored separately. Things inside seem frozen in time. The apple didn't change at all. At 4 in the morning, the sun came up. I looked at the empty shelves and smiled. All the supplies were stored in the space, and my space still wasn't full. Beyond the white mist, there must be a larger area. I was exhausted, but I felt a great sense of accomplishment. I lay on the cot and fell sound asleep. Day 5 of the countdown. Early in the morning, I was woken up by Xiaoyu. Sis, wake up, sis. Xiaoyu was shaking my shoulders frantically. I opened my eyes and saw his anxious face. Where are the supplies? Where did everything on the shelves go? Did someone break in last night and steal it? I laughed. I held his shoulders. Don't panic. Where do you think? I must have put it away. Xiaoyu froze, and his eyes lit up. It can really hold that much? I nodded. I took her to the shelves. With a thought, a bag of rice appeared on the empty shelf. Then with another move, it vanished. Oh my god, awesome. Now we can stock up even more. Sis, how big is your space? I don't know. I shook my head. So far, all the supplies only take up a tiny corner, and it's still empty in there. There's white mist. There's more space behind it, but I'm not strong enough yet. I can't reach it. But this is enough for now. Come on, we gotta step up our shopping today. Xiaoyu specifically took Dad's card, which had our parents' life savings. Enough for us to splurge for a while. My sister and I drove that beat-up pickup into town. We were in completely different moods. With the space hack, we could let loose. What else do we need? I looked at the list. Already a lot crossed off. A freezer, Xiaoyu said. We can store meat in a freezer. Canned food lasts a long time, but fresh meat frozen is more practical. And a generator and fuel, I added. In case of a blackout, we need our own power. Especially the freezer can't stop, so we got to it. We first went to the appliance store. As soon as we walked in, I saw a familiar figure. Mom? I walked over, surprised. Mom was standing in front of a row of freezers, haggling with a salesperson. When she saw us, she smiled. Perfect timing. Help me figure out which one is best. I was completely overwhelmed, so Mom made the call. Mom got a price below cost and ordered 4 large freezers. She also got 2 quiet generators and 20 barrels of diesel. Mom, you're amazing. How did you do that? I whispered. Mom winked. I said we're opening a guest house in a remote mountain area. It's a government poverty alleviation project. The salesperson wanted the deal, so he gave the lowest price. I gave a thumbs up. Mom's usually gentle, but she's ruthless when haggling. The freezers and generators were scheduled for delivery the next day. Then we hurried to the meat packing plant. They sell pork in whole sides there. We ordered 10 whole sides of pork, plus 500 pounds of beef and 200 pounds of chicken. I asked the boss to cut and package everything, and I told the manager, we also need sausages and ham. 100 pounds of each to start. The factory manager is a chubby middle-aged man. He listened to what I said. He was even sweating in the cold storage. What's this for? So much stuff? Running a supermarket and also doing frozen food wholesale. I'm getting better at lying now. Boss, if your meat here is good, I'll come again for New Year. There's no convenience store in our village, but we need a lot of things. When the boss heard that, he was overjoyed. He couldn't wait to keep me as a repeat customer. All right, miss. I'll give you the best price. Business is tough these days. A big order is like God. You pay a deposit. Scheduled a pickup time. We hurried to the next stop without stopping. The electronics market. Xiaoyu said to me, we need to prepare several surveillance systems. Cameras at the entrance of the tunnel and around the yard, preferably with night vision and motion detection. Oh, sis. We also need to buy drones to scout the surroundings, so we won't have to risk going out. I nodded. Finally chose a wireless surveillance system with 8 cameras. Wide coverage. village. Comes with solar charging panels. Also bought 2 drones with long battery life, both equipped with HD cameras and infrared thermal imaging. How much are these walkie-talkies? I felt a spark when I saw the walkie-talkies. These walkie-talkies are also important to us. In case we need to split up, walkie-talkies are the best devices when communication systems are down. Without hesitation, I bought 10 military-grade walkie-talkies. Strong signal, anti-interference. By the time we got home, it was completely dark. Dad is tuning the new equipment in the yard. A small wind turbine. The blades spin slowly in the evening breeze. How's it going? How's the shopping going? He wipes his sweat. Freezer, generator, meat monitor, drone, walkie-talkies. All done now. I rattled off a whole list. Wow, we've stocked up more than a supermarket now. I chuckled, but I knew it wasn't enough. At dinner, our family of 4 sat around the dining table. A lavish dinner was laid out on the table, but the atmosphere was a bit tense. I did some calculations. Dad put down his chopsticks. Our supplies can last 4 people 3 to 5 years. If we ration, maybe longer. Dad, I think if we can, we should stock up more. I said softly, the lesson from our past life is too deep. Hunger, cold, injuries, and man-made disasters. That bastard Zhao, the cripple. Xiao Yu said through gritted teeth. At the mention of Zhao the cripple, the whole family was shrouded in gloom. Mom's hand trembled, thinking of the enemies from our past life. All 4 of us had hatred in our eyes. In this life, that bunch, they won't lay a finger on any single hair on any of our family members. Dad said angrily, Dad, we need more preparations, not just survival supplies, but also defensive measures, and preferably intelligence. Intelligence? Sis, what do you mean? Xiao Yu tilted her head and looked at me. We need to know what's happening outside, what the government is doing, how other survivors are doing, radios, satellite phones. We need to get these old school things ready. Dad nods. Makes sense. I'll go to the city tomorrow. Get a satellite phone and a shortwave radio. Buy more batteries too. And give me the medicine list. Mom reaches out her hand. I know an old classmate who's a pharmaceutical rep. Probably can get wholesale prices. Then I'll go buy some seeds and gardening tools. Xiao Yu raises his hand. And livestock supplies. Dad, if you can get live chickens and ducks tomorrow, that'd be great. They can lay eggs, and they can breed. We're also pretty hidden in the cave. Probably nobody will hear the noise from the livestock. Dad thought for a moment. Old Wang in the village raises a lot of chickens and ducks. I can go ask him. Just say you're into eco-farming. Buy some poultry. Clear division of labor. We each start moving. That night, everyone slept dreamlessly. Set out early the next morning. Day 3 of the countdown. The supplies in the cave are visibly piling up. I'm practically living in the city, running around wholesale markets, pharmacies, hardware stores every day. More and more supplies in the space, sorted and neatly arranged. Rice, flour, grains, beans, cooking oil, salt, sugar, various seasonings, canned food, hardtack, chocolate, energy bars, powdered milk, cereal. The medicine aisle is even more stocked. Mom bought a bunch of antibiotics, pain relievers, fever reducers, and cold medicine, stomach medicine, allergy meds, topical ointments, gauze, tape, thermometers, and blood pressure monitors. Also toilet paper, sanitary pads, toothpaste, toothbrushes, soap, shampoo, and laundry detergent. Dad brought back all kinds of batteries, flashlights, headlamps, and multi-tools, and cat litter that Mom insisted on buying for the makeshift bathroom. Then bought 10 down comforters, 500 hand warmers, windproof lighters, and solid alcohol fuel. Every day I'd come home only after I was too exhausted to walk. But whenever I thought about stopping, images from the past life would flash before my eyes. Xiao Yu couldn't walk from hunger, Mom begging on her knees, Dad being beaten to death. Can't stop. Can't stop. Our frequent shopping trips finally caught the attention of the villagers. That afternoon, I drove my second-hand pickup truck back to the village, and was stopped by a few neighbors at the village entrance. The ringleader was Aunt Yang, the village's notorious gossip. Xiao Yuan, you're stocking up again? Aunt Yang craned her neck to look into the car, the back seat piled with several big cardboard boxes. It's been days now. What are you doing carrying big bags every day? I stopped the car, rolled down the window, and said with a polite smile, Hello, Aunt Yang. I'm planning to open a small convenience store, just stocking up a bit. You're opening a supermarket? Another woman leans in. Where are you opening it? This village only has so many people. Can you sell all this stuff you're buying? Haven't figured it out yet. Probably around here somewhere. I made it up. Both retail and wholesale. There's no decent store in any of the nearby villages. I want to give it a try. Yongshen pursed his lips. You, a college grad, didn't even go for a master's, came back to open a little supermarket? Your parents supported you through all those years of school. All that education went to waste. I sneered inwardly. Jobs are hard to find now. Opening a supermarket is fine too. I also want to be with my parents. Alright, that does make a little sense. Your parents are getting old. They need someone to take care of them. But your place is making quite a racket, huh? Did you dig a cellar or something? What kind of big production are you putting on? My face darkened. I started to get nervous. These people are watching our house every day. Even the matter of our cellar. They know all about it. The cellar collapsed. My dad is fixing up the cellar to store some supplies. We can store some vegetables in the winter. Yongshen suddenly understood. No wonder. I said I saw cement trucks coming and going recently. You're really going all out. I exchanged a few pleasantries with them. I quickly got away. On the drive home, my palms were sweating. When I got home, Dad was organizing steel pipes in the yard. Seeing my grim expression, he looked outside the yard. The villagers are getting suspicious. I nodded. I parked the car. Just those gossipy women. They stopped me at the village entrance and asked all sorts of questions. Dad straightened up and wiped his sweat. Normal. We've been making too much noise lately. It's okay. Only 3 days left. After 3 days, it won't matter. Are the surveillance cameras installed? I asked. They're installed. Dad pointed at a few inconspicuous black spots under the eaves. The 4 corners of the yard, the gate, and the cave entrance are all wired, connected to the monitor inside the cave. He paused and added, "You also want to dig a dry toilet." Said we can go outside at first if we want. Have a backup. I nodded. Mom is thorough. At dinner, Xiaoyu said excitedly, "I've downloaded all the movies, TV shows, and documentaries I wanted to see. Our whole family can stay in the cave and enjoy this pre-apocalyptic entertainment." Xiaoyu, I suggest you also download some ebooks, various novels, popular science reads, survival manuals, offline encyclopedias. That way we'll have basic knowledge too. Hearing my suggestion, Xiaoyu snapped her fingers. Sis still needs you, the college student. I'll go download them now. 2 days until the countdown. We check all supplies one last time. The shelves in the bunker are mostly full, and I've stored the rest in my space. To avoid drawing attention, we deliberately left some clutter out. 4 big freezers line the wall, all plugged in, packed with meat. Generators and diesel are stored in a separate area. Good ventilation. A monitor hangs on the wall, split into 8 feeds, clearly showing what's happening inside and out. In the makeshift bathroom, cat litter is piled up like a small mountain. In the growing area, Xiaoyu's seedlings have grown a bit taller. She uses her power to gently nurture these fruits, focused every moment. 1 day to go. Our family of 4 sits in the bunker, doing a final checklist. Food for 78 years. Enough medicine for common illnesses and injuries. 20 tons of water. With my ability, that should be fine. Power from diesel generator and wind turbine, plus 100 backup solar panels. Full set of seeds for planting and raising livestock. Tools are all ready, and the communications gear is set too. Defense cameras, drones, walkie-talkies, plus Dad's strength, Mom's water powers, Xiaoyu's plant powers, and my space. Our family of 4 shares a heavy smile. But we can still smile. We've done all we can. The rest is up to fate. Let's get a good night's sleep. Dad stands up, gently pats me, and Xiaoyu on the head. Tomorrow the world will change. The moment the nuclear explosion happened, there was actually no feeling at all. That morning, we got up as usual. Mom made a simple breakfast. We sat around the table in the bunker. The atmosphere was a bit oppressive. We can't go out today. Dad said we'd tell people the whole family had a cold and needed rest. I nodded. The villagers were curious, but they wouldn't force their way in. At 10 in the morning, look. Xiaoyu suddenly pointed at the TV that was broadcasting local news. An emergency message interrupted. The National Emergency Department issued an announcement. At 8:40 this morning, a serious accident occurred at various countries' experimental bases, causing a radioactive leak. The public is advised not to panic. The government has activated emergency plan. Then it switched to an expert interview, explaining how to protect against radioactive contamination. It's begun. Dad said. We watched silently as the news played it down. But we all knew the truth. It wasn't an accident. It was a nuclear explosion. Radiation and virus were already in the air, and this sudden global nuclear explosion would quickly plunge the world into crisis. In the following hours, the TV kept airing various announcements. It asked citizens to stock up on supplies, stay indoors, and take protective measures. In our village, the villagers weren't too fazed at first. It wasn't until the afternoon that the village chief called out over the PA system, "Attention all villagers. Attention all villagers. We've received notification from higher authorities that extreme weather and special circumstances may occur soon. Stock up on supplies and try not to go out. I repeat, the loudspeaker blared all afternoon. As evening fell, the village began to stir. Some drove into town to stock up, only to find the supermarket cleaned out. Long lines formed at the gas station, and gas prices skyrocketed. Did you hear? The supermarket in town is stripped of rice, flour, and oil. Not just the supermarket, even the corner store has nothing left. Is something big really about to happen? I don't know. The news on TV was so vague. Panic spread like a plague. My house was locked tight, curtains drawn shut. By the end of the day, the official news became clear. A viral outbreak. The infected are aggressive. All residents stay indoors, lock your doors and windows, and wait for further notice. The word zombie wasn't used directly at first. Just like in the previous life, the authorities kept calling them aggressive infected, but that didn't ease anyone's panic. The village was in total chaos. The village chief called another meeting, to be held at the village committee compound. My family claimed to be sick and didn't go. We watched what was happening outside through the surveillance cameras. When Dad was installing the surveillance system, he deliberately placed a hidden camera near the big locust tree in the village center. At that moment, our family, through the surveillance camera, could see the village committee yard packed with people. Everyone was talking at once, panic spreading across every face. Village chief, what's going on? Is what they said on TV true? Are there really crazed people biting others? We're out of rice at home. What do we do? The village chief is a 60-year-old man, always respected by everyone, but even he looked worried. Quiet, quiet. The higher-ups have ordered us to organize, to face this crisis together. From today, the village will form patrols. All able-bodied young adults must join. Why should we? I'm the only worker in my family. What if something happens to me? We need patrols. You go yourself then. Arguments erupted one after another. In the end, the chief barely managed to get a dozen people, splitting them into 2 shifts to patrol the village. But everyone was on edge, none of them wanting to take risks. Through the surveillance camera, our family didn't really approve of the chief's organization. This definitely won't work. No unified command, and not enough weapons. Once infected people actually show up, the village won't last long. We can't worry about that much. We're lucky if we can save ourselves. Mom's right. Last time we tried to help the neighbors, we almost got ourselves killed. This time, we've learned our lesson. On the 3rd day after the nuke, Xiaoyu suggested we liven up the meals. Our family of 4 decided to have a barbecue. We set up the grill inside the cave. The ventilation system carried the smell of the barbecue away. On the makeshift grill, the pork belly sizzles, edges curling up, smoky aroma fills the air. Xiaoyu carefully flips the pork belly. Drops of fat fall onto the coals. Mom, your marinade recipe is amazing. I pick up a slice, dip it in chili powder. The double kick makes my tongue tingle. In the apocalypse, this meal is such a luxury. Dad eats quietly, head down. The surveillance screen stays on. In the footage, the village suddenly goes quiet. The patrol is scattered. In less than 3 days, they'd fallen apart. Now there are only 2 members left. They just do a symbolic lap at noon. Most people keep their doors tightly shut. They're all staying home, living their small lives. If you like it, eat more. The next time we eat, who knows when that'll be? Things are only going to get more tense. Having a barbecue is really too risky. Just then, in the top left corner of the monitor, a staggering figure suddenly appears. My chopsticks freeze. That guy was wearing a down jacket, carrying a bulging travel bag. Stumbling as he walked, he stopped under the old locust tree at the village entrance, looked up, then kept walking into the village. Who is that? I leaned closer to the screen. Probably the village chief's oldest son. Works sales in the provincial capital. I hear he's very successful. Dad put down his chopsticks, furrowed his brows. Why is he back now? Xiaoyu said, dissatisfied. Something's definitely off. After the nuclear explosion news broke, more people are leaving, and few are coming back. Seeing the village chief's oldest son looking travel-worn, coming into the village at this time, the camera zoomed in on him. As he passed the intersection outside our front yard, the surveillance camera clearly captured his face. His face was ashen, eyes sunken, lips dry and cracked. What's more suspicious? His movements were stiff and sluggish, as if she were trembling. Mom was drawn in, stared at the surveillance monitor. On the screen, the village chief's oldest son's muscles twitched uncontrollably. He walked all the way to the chief's house gate, raised his hand, and knocked. The movement was unsettling. Wrong. I stared at the screen. Mom, Dad, Xiaoyu, look at his eyes. They seem unfocused. Soon, the chief's wife opened the door a crack. She looked surprised to see her oldest son back. Happily, she patted and hugged him, pulling him inside. The door closed again. Our family of 4 fell silent. Eat up, I'm done with the rest. We need to be on high alert tonight. That night, screams came from the village head's house. First a woman's shriek, then a man's roar, then a series of chaotic noises. The village dogs barked nonstop. The whole village heard it, but no one dared to go out and look. Early the next morning, the village head's front door was wide open. There was a lot of blood at the entrance. A few brave villagers went over to check, then scrambled back home, their faces pale. Dead. They're all dead. The village head's eldest son was gnawing on his wife like a monster. It must be monsters. Panic erupted completely. The villagers locked their doors and windows, too scared to come out again. The patrol completely disbanded. Everyone feared for their lives. On the 5th day after the nuclear blast, infected people started showing up in the village. First, a few people who fled back from town, their faces gray and haggard, their eyes cloudy. They lunged at anyone. Then the village elders. The sick went berserk for no reason. The virus is spreading. Xiao Yu looked at the data on the tablet. Incubation period, 3 to 5 days, then rapid onset. Early symptoms may resemble the flu, then high fever and coma, and when they wake up, they become zombies. The temperature is dropping too. Mom looked at the thermometer. The outdoor temperature dropped to -10 degrees overnight, and it's still dropping. There's a generator in the cave, supplying power. Heating equipment is safe for now, but every time I go back inside to use the bathroom or grab something, I can still hear the occasional screams from outside, which weigh heavily on me. On the 7th day, after the nuclear blast, the village began to fall. At least half the people became zombies wandering through the village. The rest either hid at home or had already fled. The impact of the nuclear blast wasn't just the spread of the virus. Even the power system started to fail. Power goes out. Communication is spotty. Right now, the temperature has dropped to -30 degrees. My dad and I stood in our yard one early morning, using a drone to scout the village. It was like hell. The village was covered in a layer of white snow, with wandering figures everywhere. Cigars fell on the white snow, a shocking sight. The broken doors and windows peered into several homes that had suffered terrible fates. Dad, isn't that Cripple Zhao? My eyes widened. On the drone's surveillance feed, I saw Cripple Zhao. Cripple Zhao was currently shoveling snow at his front gate. His yard gate was tightly shut, and occasionally, figures moved behind the second-floor windows. Looking at the bags piled in the yard, Dad, look at Cripple Zhao's yard. They've stocked up a lot of stuff. They sure have stocked up plenty. I asked around about the nuclear blast. A few days ago, Cripple Zhao was also frantically buying supplies. My heart sank. If Cripple Zhao and his family were also stockpiling, wouldn't that mean Cripple Zhao and his family also reincarnated? Thinking about this, my heart tightened. In the previous life, Cripple Zhao was the one who ruined our entire family. In this life, would he? Dad patted my shoulder. In this life, we're already prepared. If they dare to come, we'll make sure they never leave. Just like the previous life, Cripple Zhao is not one to stay quiet. He showed up on the 10th day after the apocalypse broke out. That morning, the surveillance alarm beeped softly. A limping figure appeared outside our gate. It was Xiao Kezi. He was alone. He held a steel pipe behind his back. The yard was covered in thick snow. He stood at the gate for a while, peering inside. Our doors and windows were shut tight. The curtains were drawn. It looked like no one was home. Li, are you home? Xiao Kezi called out twice. In the underground bunker, we stared at the monitor. No one answered. Dad shook his head and said to us, "Don't pay him any attention." Xiao Kezi called out a few more times. Seeing no response, he banged on the iron door with his steel pipe. The sound clanged loudly. At that moment, it was extremely dangerous. It could easily attract zombies. He did it on purpose. Xiao Yu clenched her fists in anger. Sure enough, a few roars came from afar. Xiao Kezi's face changed. He immediately limped and hid in a corner. 2 zombies shambled from the alley. They lingered at the gate for a bit, then slowly left. Only then did Xiao Kezi come out again. He took a long look at our yard, reluctant and unwilling. Finally, he spat, turned and left. He was testing Dad, he said in a low voice, to see if we were really home, and if we were on guard. Why didn't Dad just deal with him? Xiao Yu asked. It's not the right time yet. Dad stared at Xiao Kezi's retreating figure on the monitor. The situation in the village is unclear now. Acting rashly could bring more trouble, and I also want to see what they're really up to. Over the next few days, we kept a close eye on Zhao the Cripple and his family. Surveillance footage and drone equipment showed us just how bold Zhao the Cripple's family really was. Zombies roamed the village. Most people stayed indoors, yet Zhao the Cripple dared to take his 3 sons out in broad daylight. They targeted families with no survivors, ones who had either turned into zombies or fled their homes. They broke in to loot grain, bacon, clothes, and tools. They take everything. Look over there. Xiao Yu pointed to another surveillance screen. On the screen, Zhao the cripple's 3 sons were moving stuff out of Old Sun's house. Old Sun and his family of 4 had all turned into zombies. The 3 Zhao brothers were carrying rice bags, carrying oil cans, and dragging out a small generator. They really take anything. Mom frowned. In the apocalypse, these are hard currency, I said calmly. Zhao the cripple is pretty shrewd. He knows to stockpile supplies. As for whether he really reborn, that's unclear. What's even more despicable is that Zhao, the cripple, and his gang also targeted the living. There were still over 20 surviving households in the village, mostly the elderly, women, and children. Zhao the cripple's family specifically targeted families with few members. They extorted them under the guise of protection fees and borrowing grain. In the surveillance footage, we saw him and his son blocking Widow Wang's door. Widow Wang is in her 50s, living alone with her 8-year-old grandson. Her son and daughter-in-law have been missing. In the village, Widow Wang's family is very down and out. But Lame Zhao pointed a steel pipe at Widow Wang. We couldn't hear what Lame Zhao was saying, but we could see Widow Wang crying and shaking her head. In the end, she turned and went inside to get half a bag of rice. Lame Zhao opened the bag to check, patted it with satisfaction, and strutted away. Widow Wang collapsed at the door, hugging her grandson and crying. What a bastard, my dad gritted out through his teeth. Many families with the elderly and disabled in the village had all been extorted by Lame Zhao. But Lame Zhao wasn't satisfied. He went to Aunt Yang's house. She lives alone. Her son and daughter-in-law went to work in the city, and after the outbreak, there's been no word. Her house is diagonally across from mine. She usually likes to sunbathe in the yard, often goes to chat with the gossips under the big locust tree. She loves gossip. The village women know almost everything about my family. Several times when I stalked up from the city, Aunt Yang saw it all clearly. That afternoon, Lame Zhao and his 3 sons knocked on Aunt Yang's door. At first, he stuck to his story. Luxta said he needed to borrow grain to protect Aunt Yang. Aunt Yang clearly didn't want to. She stood at the door, waving her hands. We couldn't hear anything, but we could see Aunt Yang gesturing excitedly, pointing at herself, then at the house, probably saying she didn't have much grain. Cripple Zhao got impatient. He pushed Aunt Yang aside and tried to barge in. Aunt Yang panicked. She grabbed Cripple Zhao's arm tightly. Just then, Cripple Zhao's second son, the biggest man, slapped her across the face. Aunt Yang fell to the ground. How could they hit her? Even though our family didn't like Aunt Yang, she was always poking her nose into our business. But seeing her lying pitifully in the snow, everyone felt sorry for her. In the frame, Aunt Yang lay on the ground for a long time without moving. Cripple Zhao crouched down. He seemed to be saying something to her. Aunt Yang shook her head. Cripple Zhao said something else. This time, he pointed toward our house. Aunt Yang was stunned. Then she shook her head frantically. But Cripple Zhao wouldn't let it go. He grabbed Aunt Yang by the collar, cursing viciously. His 3 sons also gathered around and started kicking and punching Aunt Yang. This went on for about a minute. Aunt Yang broke down. She pointed at our house, her mouth opening and closing, saying a lot of things. As Cripple Zhao listened, his eyes lit up. Looks like that young woman ratted us out. In the shot, we see Cripple Zhao let go of Aunt Yang. He even smiled and patted his shoulder. Then he left with his sons. Aunt Yang slumped down on the doorstep, covering her face. Her shoulders were shaking violently. How could Yang Shen be like this? Cripple Zhao bullied him, so he sold us out. Actually, we can't really blame him. I sighed. Aunt Yang is annoying, but now he's alone, facing the danger of Cripple Zhao's family of 4. What else could he do? To survive, Aunt Yang didn't really do much. Thinking back to the end of the world in my past life, when trust between people collapsed, I don't think Aunt Yang did anything too wrong. But Xiao Yu wanted to say more, and Mom shook her head too. The apocalypse is here. Self-preservation is instinct. But this way, Cripple Zhao is definitely going to target us. Sure enough, early the next morning, Cripple Zhao came. This time he wasn't alone. He brought his 3 sons, and the surveillance alarm went off. All 4 were fully armed, steel pipes and machetes, and even a homemade shotgun. The 4 swaggered up to our yard gate. Cripple Zhao raised his hand and pounded on the door. Li Jiangwo, open the door. I know you're home. In the underground shelter, my whole family stood up. They're here. So what? What's there to be afraid of? If they dare make a move, we won't show any mercy. I gripped my compound bow tightly. My palms were slightly sweaty. On the surveillance footage, Lin Zhao saw no one answering, started kicking the door. The heavy iron door let out a deep sound. Li Jianghua, stop playing dead. The foreign woman already said your family has hoarded a lot of stuff. Joy shared is joy multiplied, so why not share some with the villagers? His 3 sons started yelling along. Open the door. If you don't, we'll break it down. You hear me? The shouts echoed through the silent village. In the distance, a few zombies even heard the noise and shuffled over. But Lame Zhao's family didn't care at all. They were clearly used to dancing with zombies. Though Lame Zhao had a limp, he moved very nimbly. His 3 sons were all strong men in their 20s or 30s. Seeing they were fully armed, I pursed my lips. On the surveillance footage, those 4 figures climbed over our courtyard wall, moving skillfully. Clearly, this wasn't their first time. They're heading to the underground entrance. The entrance was camouflaged, but Lame Zhao knew its location from the previous life. If they were reborn, they'd find it quickly in this life. Sure enough, they went straight to the backyard and tore away the camouflage. Dad, what do we do? Let's go meet them. Stick to the plan. Xiaoyun, trigger the trap. Xiaoyuan, get ready. Honey, stay here and protect yourself. Watch the bunker. Let's get into position. This is it. Last life, we grabbed supplies here. This time, the Li family must have hoarded even more. Dad, this door is new, and it has a keypad lock. Smash it. Zhao Quezi signals. His 3 sons pick up tools and start hitting the door. A 3-layer steel door isn't easy to break. After a while, only a few dents were left. That's tough. Use this. Zhao Kezi pulls out a small drill from his backpack. Clearly, he came prepared. Just as they were about to break the lock, Xiao Yu triggered the trap. The ground around the door suddenly collapsed. Zhao Kezi and his 3 sons fell in. It was a 10-foot deep pit. Sharpened bamboo stakes lined the bottom. This was a trap disguised by Xiao Yu with vines. A thin layer of dirt covered it. A wooden plank supported it from below. Just now, Xiao Yu pulled the plank away with a vine. The deep pit was exposed instantly. Then came 2 screams. Zhao Kezi's 2nd and 3rd sons were pierced by the stakes, died on the spot. The eldest and Zhao Kezi reacted quickly. They grabbed the edge of the pit, barely hanging on, but it wasn't over. Suddenly, countless vines emerged from the pit walls. They wrapped around their limbs like living things. These were plants grown by Xiao Yu's ability, tough as steel wire. What is this stuff? At that moment, Dad pushed open the bunker door and came out. He carried a solid iron rod. Zhao Kezi, long time no see. Lame Zhao looked up and saw Dad. His expression changed. Li Jiangguo, what do you want? Li Jiangguo, killing is against the law. You've already broken the law. Get on your knees and beg for mercy. Dad stepped closer to Lame Zhao. Murder is a crime. In the last life, you killed our whole family. In this life, it's time for you to pay. Lame Zhao's eldest son struggled to climb out, but the vines were getting tighter. He pulled out a knife from his waist and slapped at the vines. Only made a few cuts. Dad, these vines are weird. They can't be cut at all. Lame Zhao's eldest son panicked. Dad walked to the edge of the pit, looking down at him from above. In the last life, Lame Zhao, you and your 3 sons stole my supplies, killed my family. In this life, I intended to stay out of your way, but you had to come to me. Lame Zhao turned pale. Bro, I was wrong. Brother Li, I was wrong in the last life. Please forgive me. Let bygones be bygones. You're still saying it was my fault? It was my fault. This time, let's cooperate and survive together. If we cooperate, we can definitely beat the apocalypse. Dad laughed. Cooperate with a beast like you? Dad raised an iron rod. Wait, I know a secret. It's about the nuclear explosion. Dad's hands stopped. What secret? The authorities built a shelter up north, the real shelter, protected by the military, fully equipped. I have a relative in the government. He told me in secret. Only I know the coordinates. I can take you there. Dad was silent for a few seconds. Then the iron rod came down without mercy, not hitting Zhao Kezi, but hitting the dirt by the pit. Loose soil tumbled down, filling half the pit. What are you doing? Li, what are you doing? Zhao Kezi watched in terror as the dirt buried up to his chest. His gaze suddenly fell on me. Li Yuan, you're a college student. You're educated. Quick, tell your dad. Murder is against the law. If you keep doing this, your dad will be breaking the law. Then your whole family will go to jail. Zhao Kezi, do you think about what time it is? It's the apocalypse, a nuclear blast. Who's gonna judge me? There are many people in the village turning into zombies. After you become a zombie, will the authorities still blame us? That's your bad luck. You little girl, talking so harshly, you'll die a horrible death. Zhao Kuizi's eldest son cursed me. He was extremely panicked. Those vines, I don't know if they've become sentient. They kept entangling him and Zhao Kezi. Now they're lambs to the slaughter in mine and Dad's hands. They both know very well, in the previous life, how their family treated ours. Now they're just panicked. Dad, don't bother arguing with them. I sneered. Humph, I absolutely hate Zhao Kezi and his whole family. I wish I could execute them with my own hands. Dad slammed down with the stick. We'll find a shelter ourselves. As for you and your 3 sons, stay here and experience death slowly. No, Li Jiangwo, you'll die a horrible death. I'll haunt you even after I die. Zhao Kezi cursed in despair. His eldest son was still struggling, but the vines were tightening. Dad took me and headed back. Without looking back, he held the walkie-talkie. Xiao Yu, fill the pit in the cave. Xiao Yu bit her lip, pressing her hands on the ground. More vines emerged from the soil and coiled around, dragging the 2 people in the pit completely into darkness. Then the earth completely buried the hole. Everything returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. Our family stood at the entrance of the cave, looking at that flat piece of land. No one spoke for a long while. Revenge was achieved, but in my heart, I didn't feel the joy I expected. Only a deep sorrow. Mom sighed and said, "It's all over." At least, not long after the nuclear blast, our family had resolved a great danger from our previous life. With Zhao Kuisi gone, the village returned to a brief calm. Our family of 4 became more vigilant. The drones scouted 3 times a day. The surveillance cameras were on 24/7. There were almost no living people left in the village. The zombies moved slowly in the bitter cold, but they didn't freeze to death because of the weather. It seemed the nuclear virus had changed their physiology, allowing them to survive in extreme conditions. On the 20th day after the nuclear explosion, a new visitor came to the village. He was a strong man, in his 30s, dressed in neat combat gear. He moved cautiously through the village, dodging the zombies. Inside the bunker, our family gathered around the monitor. "Who's that?" Xiao Yu leaned close to the screen. "That guy. Looks like old Chen's son." Dad hesitated. Old Chen, Uncle Chen, passed away last year. He had a son who served in the army. After discharge, he worked elsewhere. He hardly ever came back to the village. After Uncle Chen passed away, Dad took care of the ancestral house he left behind. Mom used to chat and play cards with Aunt Chen, chat and play cards, and sometimes clean up, pull weeds, dust the place. That's how Mom and Dad remember their lost friend. Chen Yang? Is his name Chen Yang? Why is he here? Mom was puzzled. We kept watching through the monitor. Chen Yang was professional, his movements clean and efficient, clearly trained. He dodged several waves of zombies, finally stopping in front of Uncle Chen's dilapidated yard. In the yard, a frozen zombie leaned against the wall. That was Uncle Chen's wife, Chen Yang's mother. She had turned into a zombie, frozen stiff by the cold, but her eyes were still moving. Chen Yang stood still before his mother. We couldn't see his expression, but from his back, we could feel his immense grief. After a long while, he slowly knelt down and kowtowed 3 times. Then he stood up and pulled a military knife from his backpack. We didn't watch any further. That night, Chen Yong lit a fire at Uncle Chen's house. The fire was too conspicuous. It attracted quite a few zombies, but he dealt with them easily. He was extremely agile. "Dad, why is he coming back now?" I was confused. Chen Yong, Uncle Chen's son, only came back once the year he passed away. Then he left. Now with the nuclear outbreak, zombies are everywhere. He suddenly appears in the village, which puzzles us greatly. He only brought 1 backpack. How much food can he have? Uncle Chen's house was already looted by Cripple Zhao. That food was probably already devoured by Cripple Zhao. Staying here, there's no food supply either. "Dad, what do you think?" I saw Dad remain silent, so I asked again. "Chen Yong is a good kid. He often came to play at our house when he was young. Your Uncle Chen also often helped us. He and I are old friends. I'm an old man now, but now he's a stranger. In this apocalypse, people's hearts are unpredictable. I know. So let's observe first." We observed for 3 days and found that Chen Yong is very disciplined. During the day, he cleans up the zombies around, fortifies his house, and lights a fire at night to keep warm. He obviously has rich survival experience. Even alone, he handles everything in an orderly manner. One morning, a big incident occurred. A group of zombies, more than 20, came out of nowhere and surrounded Uncle Chen's house. Chen Yong fought back desperately, but there were too many. He was gradually backed into a corner. I watched the surveillance feed. My heart clenched. I have to help. Dad stood up. "No, it's too dangerous for the old man." Mom grabbed him. Dad shook her off. His tone was firm. "Old Chen has only 1 son. I can't stand by and let him die." Dad ignored Mom's attempts to stop him. He put on a thick coat, grabbed an iron rod and a machete, and also brought a compound bow, then headed toward the cellar entrance. "Dad, I'm coming with you." I stood up too. "I'm coming too," Xiao Yu said. "No, you stay here and protect Mom. I'll go alone." But But no, but that's an order. Dad's gaze left no room for argument. He pushed open the cellar door and disappeared into the darkness. I couldn't just stay put. I grabbed a machete and followed him out. Dad was about to climb the wall when he saw me in the backyard. He shook his head helplessly. I gave him a thumbs up. We climbed over the wall together and circled around to the back of old Chen's house. The zombies' attention was all on Chen Yong. They didn't notice what was behind them. Dad raised the compound bow and fired. Arrow after arrow pierced a zombie's skull with precision. One by one, the zombies fell silently. After taking down 5 zombies in a row, Chen Yong, surrounded, also noticed. He perked up. His counterattack became fiercer. Attacked from both sides, the zombie horde fell into chaos. Dad took the chance and rushed in, swinging his iron bar. Each blow crushed a skull. Chen Yong was stunned for a moment, seeing Dad. Then they coordinated seamlessly, back to back, quickly clearing the remaining zombies. After the last zombie fell, Uncle Chen's yard fell silent. Chen Yong let out a heavy breath, looking at Dad with complicated eyes. Uncle Lee, it's me, you little brat. You're back without a word. Dad wiped the sweat from his forehead. Chen Yong gave a wry smile. I didn't expect to see someone I know in times like these. Chen Yong looked at the zombie corpses on the ground, his eyes extremely dim. My mom. Dad patted his shoulder. In this world, just being alive is hard enough. Chen Yong nodded. After a moment of silence, he suddenly saw me standing not far away. Uncle Lee, that's Xiao Yuan. How are you all doing? We're doing okay. Dad glanced at me and said no more. And you? What are your plans? Chen Yong shakes his head. I don't know. I came back to take my mom to the city. Chen Yong's eyes reddened. His voice was choked. I didn't expect to be this late. Are there other survivors in the village? Chen Yong's sadness lasted only a few seconds. Then he calmed down. I was impressed. I looked at Chen Yong sympathetically. If it weren't for this second life, fate gave us a chance and gave our whole family superpowers. I guess we wouldn't be much luckier in this lifetime either. Some might be hiding at home. Uncertain. Dad shakes his head. We rarely go out. Chen Yong looked at Dad's gear, then glanced toward the backyard. Uncle, you are prepared. Dad didn't answer directly. You're not safe here either. Come with me for now. Zombies come in waves. More might come. Chen Yong hesitated, then nodded anyway. Then he picked up his backpack by the door. When Dad and I brought him to our home, Xiao Yu had already opened the hatch. She saw Chen Yong come in. Actually, our whole family was a bit nervous. At that moment, Chen Yong saw the facilities in the shelter. His eyes widened at the sight of our refuge. I briefly introduced my wife, little Xiao Yu, and Dad. Chen Yong nods and greets. He is very polite. He looks exhausted, but his eyes are very lively. For some reason, I feel Chen Yong is trustworthy. Since he's back, Mom can't just kick him out, so she poured him a cup of hot water. Sit down first and warm up. It's too cold outside. Chen Yong's clothes were already covered with frost. As soon as he entered, they became wet. Chen Yong took the cup. He nodded gratefully. He drank some water. Then he took some things out of his backpack. Canned food, compressed biscuits. This is what I brought. Not much. But you don't need to keep these. We have enough food. You keep them. Dad pushed them back. Chen Yong was taken aback. He probably didn't expect. In this apocalypse, food is the most precious resource. Uncle, you are. Chen Yong. Dad interrupted him. He asked seriously, I have a few questions for you. You need to answer honestly. Chen Yong felt Dad's seriousness. He paused, his expression changing. You said you came back this time really to pick up your parents? Chen Yong nodded. Yes. I heard rumors in the city that something big was going to happen. I asked for leave and rushed back, but I was too late. Communication was cut off along the way, and there were many zombies. I wanted to get back. I could only rely on carpooling, but it was really hard. I can imagine the chain of effects from the nuclear explosion. It will definitely affect every aspect of life. It's already hard enough for Chen Yong to make it back. Do you have any special skills besides what you learned in the army? Dad continued asking. I was an engineer in the army. I can fix a lot of things. I know machinery and also some basic medical skills. Chen Yong thought for a moment and said, after retiring from the army, I worked at a construction company. No problem with construction work. Dad and Mom exchanged a glance. Last question. Dad stared into Chen Yong's eyes. If we let you join us, Can you guarantee loyalty? No betrayal. Follow our orders. Chen Yong was taken aback. Just a few seconds of silence. He nodded solemnly. Yes, I, Chen Yong, am not an ungrateful person. Uncle, you saved me today. I will always remember this kindness. Dad looked at him for a while, then nodded. All right, you stay. Chen Yong's eyes lit up. Really? Really? But we have rules. First, obey orders. Second, no acting on your own. Third, resources are shared, distributed as needed. Can you do it? Yes, Chen Yong straightened up, like in the army. And so, in our underground bunker, we had a new member. Chen Yong also proved himself. Soon he proved his worth. It helped reinforce the burrow structure and improved the ventilation system. It even fixed some equipment we couldn't figure out before. This wind turbine can be optimized. He pointed to the wind turbine Dad bought. The blade angle needs adjusting. The efficiency will definitely improve. This wind turbine, ever since Dad bought and assembled it, we've been using it, but unfortunately its output is too low. It only powers basic lighting each day. That really annoyed us. With Chen Yong here, I think it's a great thing. Also, the surveillance wiring can be more concealed. I'll rework the diesel generator. It needs regular maintenance. I'm a pro at this. I'll take care of it. He works hard and doesn't talk much. A very down-to-earth person. After a few days, we all came to trust him, especially Xiao Yu. He's like a curious little kid, always following him around asking questions. Brother Chen, how do you use this tool? Brother Chen, how do you repair the drone? Chen Yong always patiently answered and taught him some practical skills. The more skills you learn, the more hope you have to survive. Chen Yong ruffled Xiao Yu's head. Since Chen Yong joined us, our survival ability has greatly improved. He also brought some good news. I heard a radio broadcast on my way back to the village. At dinner, Chen Yong said the military frequencies are encrypted, but I learned decryption in the army before. What did the broadcast say? Dad asked urgently. There is indeed a shelter in the north. It's a national level one, guarded by the military, well equipped. Chen Yong sighs, but it's at least 1,000 kilometers from here. The road is too dangerous. Also, the broadcast said the military is organizing rescue teams, advancing in all directions, but slowly, because of too many zombies and the harsh weather. We fell silent. The shelter sounds good, but it's 1,000 kilometers away. Going there now would be against the flow. Let's wait for the rescue team to come. We can wait, Mom said, but we don't know how long. Chen Yong shook his head. The broadcast said the rescue team prioritizes big cities and important areas. Remote villages like ours might be at the very end of the list. That's not good news. Made the family atmosphere heavy. Not long after, a turning point came. One morning, my little sister was playing with the drone when she suddenly shouted, "Everyone, come look. There's something in the sky." We gathered around the monitor. In the footage the drone sent back, there were several black dots moving high up, moving fast. It's airplanes. Chen Yongyi recognized them. They're military transport planes. Sure enough, a few minutes later, those planes flew over our place and dropped something. Parachutes opened up in the air one by one, drifting down slowly. I thought of scenes from movies. Is it an airdrop of supplies? No. Chen Yong stared at the screen. Looks like leaflets, he said. Soon, a leaflet was blown into our yard by the wind. Chen Yong put on a hazmat suit, went out, and picked it up. The leaflet had a bold headline, "Official Emergency Shelter Guide." It was covered with dense text and diagrams. The government has set up 108 shelters nationwide. Locations as follows. Military rescue teams are advancing. Survivors are urged to hold on. Below is a self-rescue guide. On the back of the leaflet was a short radio frequency and daily broadcast schedule. There is hope now, Xiao Yu said excitedly. That day, we tuned the radio to the frequency on the leaflet. This is the National Emergency Broadcast. Here is today's report. The first northern shelter has received 50,000 survivors. It's running smoothly. The Eastern Rescue Team has pushed into Shandong. Please keep hope, all survivors. The country hasn't forgotten you. The broadcast also gave detailed survival advice. How to purify water, how to defend against zombies, how to stay warm in low temperatures, and so on. Listening to the broadcast, I felt a connection from the outside for the first time. The government is still functioning. The military is still active. Good thing we weren't left behind. We'll keep waiting and strengthening our defenses. Prepare for the long haul, Dad said. In the days to come, because we knew rescuers were getting closer, we were filled with hope. Even when improving the shelter, we had so much energy. Chen Yong taught us a lot of survival skills. How to set traps, how to identify edible plants, and how to treat wounds. Xiao Yu's planting area is progressing rapidly. He used his special ability to sprout the first batch of bok choy. They didn't grow as fast as before the apocalypse, but they were indeed growing. That's great. We can be self-sufficient in food. My spatial ability is also improving. The white mist is slowly fading. As I keep using my ability, the space is expanding. It's not just the size of a basketball court anymore. It's almost 2 basketball courts now, and the black soil inside the space can be used for Xiaoyu's planting area's soil. This soil can provide better nutrients for the seed. 2 months after the nuclear explosion, the whole village went completely quiet. The zombies were either cleared out by us or frozen by the severe cold. The temperature has dropped to -60 degrees. Going outside requires heavy extreme cold suits. One day, Chen Yong came up with an idea. We can't hide in the underground burrow forever. Although the temperature is dropping, I think it will eventually warm up. But once it warms up, zombie activity will definitely increase. There will also be other survivors, maybe even invaders. We need to set up a safer stronghold. What do you mean? Let's first clear out the entire village and set up defenses. Even though we don't have many people, we can use the terrain. Set up barricades at the village entrance and watchtowers on high ground. Check every household and eliminate any hidden dangers. Isn't this a bit too much work? Take it slow, a little bit each day. I have engineering experience. I can design fortifications, and once we control the whole village, we'll have more resources to use. The supplies in those abandoned houses, and any usable equipment can be gathered together. Dad thought about it for a long time, and finally agreed, on the condition that we stay safe and take no risks. The cleanup operation began. Every day, Dad and Chen Yong went out fully armed, checking house by house. Xiaoyu and I provided reconnaissance support via drones, and Mom was in charge of logistics and watch. Things went more smoothly than expected. Most of the zombies in the village were frozen stiff, making cleanup easy. They found a lot of useful stuff: generators, tools, unopened food, and a shotgun with ammunition. Old Wang's cellar had a lot of potatoes and sweet potatoes, most of which were frostbitten, but some were still edible. We'll bring them back as seeds. Dr. Lee's pharmacy still had a lot of medicine. Some of it expired, but better than nothing. The elementary school's solar panels are still usable. Resources piled up bit by bit. Chen Yong started building defenses at the village entrance. He used abandoned cars to make barricades, set up locks and alarms. Up high, he built a watchtower. After a month, we basically controlled the whole village, even though there were only 5 of us alive. But with solid defenses and preparations, we had a small survivor camp. The temperature started to rise overnight. The ice and snow began to melt overnight. The frozen zombies started to thaw. They started moving. Even though we had moved them early to the hill outside the village, their speed was increasing as the temperature rose. Good thing we were prepared. Chen Yong moved into the watchtower for now. He dealt with approaching zombies using a compound bow or a hunting rifle. Plus, the barricades at the village entrance were sturdy. Normal impacts couldn't break them. We set up a greenhouse, built with plastic sheeting and rebar. This became Xiaoyu's planting area. Her ability was getting stronger. Not only could she make plants grow in low temperatures, but also increase their yield. Our family can now eat fresh vegetables every day. Days go by. I've almost gotten used to this life. Whether the official rescue team comes or not, I don't seem to care anymore. Every day we have fixed tasks: patrolling, maintaining equipment, tending to food, training our abilities. I'm even a bit dazed, wondering if this world really only has our family. Until that afternoon, the drone alarm went off. Not zombies. Several cars were coming from the main road at the village entrance. Someone's coming, Xiaoyu shouted from the watchtower. The 5 of us went on alert. Dad and Chen Yong picked up weapons. Mom and I were ready to assist. This convoy wasn't small, about 10 vehicles. In front were 5 military off-road vehicles, lined up to lead the way. 3 armored personnel carriers followed closely. Finally, there were 2 medical vehicles. The vehicles had prominent markings. The doors of the official emergency rescue vehicles opened. Soldiers in protective suits jumped out. Their movements were professional and swift. They checked the roadblocks. The leader picked up a megaphone. "Listen up, people inside. This is the National 3rd Rescue Team. Are there any survivors in the village? We're here to provide assistance." National Rescue Team. I frowned. It's been a long time since I last heard about an official rescue team. They're here now. Is it real? I wondered. Might be real, Chen Yong said. Look at their gear and discipline. They look like regular troops. But Dad was wary. What if they're disguised? In this apocalypse, not everyone in uniform is good. After a while, A man who looked like an officer got out of the vehicle. He took off his helmet. He was a middle-aged man in his 40s. His face was stern. "Survivors, friends, are you still alive? Please don't be afraid. We are the rescue team sent by the nation. We have food, medicine, and medical aid. If you need help, please come out and meet us." His voice sounded sincere. This left our whole family in a dilemma. Should we go out or not? Should we negotiate with them? We hesitated for 3 minutes. Dad made a decision. "I'll go out and take a look. If it's real, you cover me. Everyone else stays back and plays it by ear." Dad put our homemade bulletproof vest under his thick down jacket. The walkie-talkie was flipped to his belt so we could hear what was being said. He held a shotgun pointing down. To show he was no threat, he stepped out from cover and walked toward the rescue team. The officer saw someone come out and was visibly relieved. "Hello, I'm Captain Zhang Xiaoming of the rescue team. How many of you are there? What's the situation?" Dad didn't answer. He kept a safe distance. "Our situation is stable. How can you prove you are who you say you are?" Zhang Xiaoming nodded, pulled a badge from his jacket, placed it on the ground, and slid it to Dad, then stepped back a few paces. Dad bent down and picked up the badge. "We came from the north, rescued 7 survivors along the way. Other outposts are similar to yours. Based on satellite images, we detected signs of activity here, so we came to check." He pointed to the medical vehicle behind him. "We have doctors and nurses, can do basic checkups and vaccines." "Vaccine?" Dad paused and asked, "What vaccine?" "I've got good news for you. The experimental vaccine for the zombie virus has been successfully developed. Although it can't cure the infected yet, it can prevent the uninfected from getting infected." Hearing this, we were so excited in the cave we almost screamed. I gripped the walkie-talkie tightly in my hand. "If it's true, that would be great." Dad carefully checked Zhang Xiaoming's ID and observed Zhang Xiaoming's men. Their posture and gear didn't look fake at all. "Please understand, I need to discuss this with my family." "Of course, we'll wait here, but please hurry. We still have to go to the next location." Zhang Xiaoming nodded. He fully understood our caution. After Dad retreated back into the cave, he explained the situation to us. He described all the details on the ID in detail. "The ID is definitely real. The rank and serial number match. It should be a legitimate rescue team." "Is what they said about the vaccine true? If there's a vaccine, that's an extra layer of protection. Mom's worried about the vaccine." "Dad, did you ask if they'll force us to leave? Take us to a shelter?" Xiao Yu is a little worried. "I didn't ask that. I'll go out and ask again." Lao Ba walks out of the cave again. He looks at Zhang Xiaoming. "I'll ask Captain Zhang. If we accept your aid, do we have to go with you?" Zhang Xiaoming shakes his head. "Not necessarily. We have 2 options. One is to take you to the northern shelter. It's safer there. It's a long distance. The second is to leave basic aid and make regular visits. You can choose for yourselves." That answer eased our minds a lot. After Dad came back, we had a brief discussion. We decided to accept the aid, but for now, we won't leave the village. We've been living here for a few months. It's familiar and safe for us. Zhang Xiaoming expressed understanding. The rescue team entered the village, but they didn't enter our cave. The doctor checked each of us and gave us vaccines. They left several boxes of supplies. Inside were compressed food, medicine, batteries, and a few satellite phones. You can reach us with the satellite phones. The frequencies are all set. Call us anytime in an emergency. He also gave us a map. It marks the nearest rescue points and the location of a medium-sized shelter. If you change your minds, or if something happens here too, once it's not safe, evacuate to those places. The rescue team only stayed 2 hours. They had to move on to the next location. Time was tight. Watching the convoy leave, I felt mixed emotions. Has the outside world become just as terrifying? Mom saw my worried face and gently comforted me. "At least we know we're not alone in this." Dad nodded. "Look, the temperature's rising. Spring is coming. Winter is over. Now we have to keep living well." We've built a small, self-sufficient living area in the village. Each of us got to use our skills. Though we didn't head for the shelter right away, with the 5 of us standing together, we could already see hope sprouting. I looked into the distance, believing the world is getting better. And we will too.